So after the most recent developer livestream going over Season 2 of Diablo 4, there was a ton of positive sentiment over the future of the game, but one thing I noticed is that because there was so much good quality of life changes, a lot of people ended up skipping over a bunch of the Season 2 specific information. And I think the Season 2 specific content and systems actually looks pretty interesting, so that's what I want to go over in this video. I want to go over all of the content and systems we're getting specifically with Season 2. And I think the best place to start is the new power system we're getting, which are Vampiric Powers. So once you start the quest line for Season 2, you basically get infected by another vampire, but since we have Lilith's blood in us from the quest line of the main game, we're able to control these new vampiric powers instead of being mind controlled. Now what this turns into is that there's going to be 22 new vampiric powers that we're able to use. You're able to use 5 of these powers at any time. And you should just be able to switch these in and out as much as you want. The powers themselves aren't specifically tied to a piece of gear. So like Season 1, they removed the gems from our jewelry, and that's where we put the hearts. Instead of that, in Season 2, there's just a new UI where you have 5 sections and you can put whichever powers in those that you want. And these powers are going to be split up between minor and major powers. And all of these powers are going to start at level 1, and they're all going to be able to be upgraded to level 3. So you're also going to have some progression in not only unlocking all of these different powers, but also upgrading them to a certain point. And with these new powers, there's going to be a new keyword, which is going to be called Vampiric Curse. And this is going to be applied through a bunch of these different powers. In fact, a majority, if not all of these powers, either apply this curse or interact with it in some way. Now, Vampiric Curse causes any enemy you kill that is inflicted with this to be stored. So you're basically inflicting these enemies, killing them, and then storing their souls. And then once you have stores sold, you can cast a defensive, macabre, or agility skill, and this will unleash all of the souls and cause them to go attack enemies. And I think at a base, you're able to store 8 souls at a time, but that may be able to be increased with some of these powers. And also some of these powers will also increase the damage or apply other effects when you release these souls. So that's the new base keyword, but a lot of these powers are also going to have some ridiculous power increases just from giving you other buffs or effects. And an example of some of these powers is one of the minor powers is called Anticipation. Your ultimate skills gain 20% cooldown reduction, and your ultimate skills gain 12% increased damage for each nearby enemy affected by your damage over time effects. That's a minor power. And then a major power example is while channeling a skill, you form a pool of blood beneath you. While channeling a skill in the pool, your channeled skills deal 40% increased damage and you gain 30% damage reduction. And a pool can only be formed every 8 seconds. Now keep in mind there's 22 different powers. Those were just an example of a minor and a major, and you can have 5 different powers applied at any time. And it doesn't seem like there's a particular limit in choosing between minor or major powers. So if you wanted, you could have all 5 minors or potentially all 5 majors. And there's going to be a few different ways to unlock these different vampiric powers. It seems like you're going to be unlocking some through the main Season 2 questline, and then you're also going to be unlocking some additional ones through some other systems that are coming with Season 2. But primarily, you're going to be getting a new currency or material called Potent Blood, which you can get from killing any of the new enemies of this season, so any of the new vampire faction. And this Potent Blood is not only used to unlock powers you don't have, but it's also used to upgrade all of your powers. So Potent Blood is going to be very valuable for quite a long time in Season 2. Now there's another system that ties into these powers that are applied to armor pieces. So only your armor pieces, so your helmet, your chest, your legs, your gloves, and your boots. And these are called Pacts. Now there's 3 different types of Pacts: Ferocity, Divinity, and Eternity. So most, if not all, armor pieces you get in Season 2 are going to have some amount of Pacts applied to that armor piece. Now we only got a couple screenshots of armor, and we've seen armor with 4 total Pacts and 5 total Pacts. And that total amount of Pacts would be split between those 3 different Pact types we went over. So Ferocity, Divinity, and Eternity. Now all of the vampiric powers are going to have a certain amount of Pacts required to actually use. And the minor Pacts are going to require 1 1 to 3 packs. So this could be something like 1 divinity, 2 divinity, 1 ferocity, or up to something like 3 eternity. But then all major powers take 6 different packs. And the highest amount of packs we've seen on a singular armor piece is 5, but I do think we may be able to get more packs on armor pieces than 5 apiece. But as of right now, the most we've seen is 5, so 25 total packs. But again, I do think we'll be able to get more than that. And you're going to have quite a lot of control on what type of packs you want all your different armor pieces to have. So even if you get an armor piece and it can have 5 packs on it, it probably isn't going to drop with that many packs on it. So maybe you get an armor piece and it has 5 total packs it can have on it, and maybe it'll drop with 1 ferocity, 1 divinity, and 1 eternity. Now what you can do to augment this piece to have the packs you want is there are also going to be new items that are standalone packs you're able to add to armor. So you'll have a standalone pack item for ferocity, divinity, and eternity. You just apply that to an armor piece and it adds +1 to whatever pack you're trying to add to it. But then there's also going to be another new item called cleansing acids that will either remove all packs from an armor piece, so then you can apply whatever type of pack you want to that armor piece, or you can also augment these cleansing acids to only remove all of a specific pack. So say if you get an armor piece with like 3 divinity and 2 eternity on it, you can either remove all those packs with acids, or you could remove, say, just all the eternity. Then you could go and get the standalone packs and then say add all ferocity to that armor piece. So you're going to have a lot of control on what packs you have on your armor pieces, so you can choose whatever vampiric powers you want to use. And I think this system is actually going to be very user friendly, and it's going to give a ridiculous amount of customization, because you're going to be able to basically fully customize the packs you have on your armor pieces, which is going to allow you to use whichever vampiric powers you want, and you can use 5 vampiric powers at a time. So it's going to be a ridiculous amount of combinations, and you're going to have basically complete control over which powers you actually want to use at any time. Now that's just the power system we're getting with Season 2, but we're also getting a ton of Season 2 specific content. And to start off, we're going to be getting the same things we'd expect to get with every new season. We're getting a Season 2 quest line, which will take us through all the story, unlocking all the new systems, and we'll be facing off against the new main boss, which is called Lord Zir. We're going to be getting a new battle pass and a new season journey. And that's a lot of the stuff we'd be getting with every season. But we're also going to be getting a bunch of new content alongside that. One of the main things being a new world event called the Blood Harvest event. Now this is going to be a little bit similar to Helltides in that it's a big open world event, but some of the main differences is Blood Harvest events are going to be playable from level 1. So you can start a new character on Season 2 and you can go start doing Blood Harvest open world events. These are probably going to be really good for leveling up, and also Blood Harvest events are always going to be active. So if one's active in Skazglen, but then the timer in the one in Skazglen runs out, one will instantly spawn in a new zone. So there's always one up, and you're always able to play it on any level character or in any world tier. And it does seem like it's going to be very dense, going along with the density increases that were also added to Helltides. But there's actually a lot of new stuff within this one new event. First off, there's going to be a new reputation system called the Hunter's Acclaim, which basically doing any activities, killing any enemies in the Hunter Harvest event, you'll get this reputation, and you go to any of these bounty boards in any of the settlements, and there's basically a new reputation track that'll give you a bunch of these caches that'll have a bunch of different rarities of gear. So the starting levels seem to have caches of different rare item slots, so maybe a ring cache or a weapon cache. Then you'll also be able to get some of the vampiric powers from this. You'll probably be getting a bunch of the new currencies for the season, and then once you get later in this reputation, you're going to be getting a bunch of legendary item caches. So leveling up this reputation should actually give you quite a lot of gear and progression early on into the season, and then it'll also help you get a ton more legendary items as you continue to progress. But there's also going to be a bunch of other pieces of content and new currencies within these Blood Harvest events. So first off, going and killing any enemies in these are going to have the highest chance for you to get potent blood and armor with Pact pieces on them. Now I'm not sure if this is just a higher chance to get armor with any packs on it, or if this is the best place to go to farm armor with the most packs on them. That wasn't specific. But besides just facing all the new different enemy types, you're also going to be getting a few new currencies as well. You're going to be getting things called blood lures, which when you take these to these little summoning altars, you will summon these things called blood seekers. Now, Bloodseekers are new lieutenants for the season that are basically corrupted player classes. So these will be vampirically corrupted classes. So you'll see corrupted barbarians, sorcerers, druids, rogues, and necromancers. So these seem like they'll be pretty difficult. They seem like they're going to be using all the different skills that us as players are able to use as these classes. And these Bloodseekers also have the highest chance, or maybe even a guaranteed chance, to give potent blood as well. So they're going to be very good to farm. And getting these blood lures and taking them to these summoning stones, you summon multiple of these Bloodseekers. So this is actually going to be a really good new currency to farm up and then go farm up a bunch of these Bloodseekers. But then you're also going to be getting another currency called Seeker Keys. And you use Seeker Keys to free prisoners, open chests, and also open chests called opulent chests, which the developers actually never talked about, but they did name this in one of their blog posts. So it seems like these chests may also give you quite a lot of loot. But using any of these keys to open any of these chests or free prisoners is going to give you Pact armor, so armor pieces with Pact on them. It's going to give you those Pact consumables we talked about, so the ability to add any Pact to armors or cleanse any armor of Pacts. And then you're also going to be getting potent blood, and presumably you're also going to be getting all the other normal loot from the game. You'll probably be getting gold and other gear pieces and maybe some other normal consumables from the game. So just from this new Blood Harvest event, you're going to be farming a ton of new currencies and facing a ton of the new enemy types. And then we have some additional miscellaneous content. So a bunch of the old dungeons are also going to be filled with the new vampire types. So some of the old dungeons you enter are just going to be taken over by these vampires. There's also going to be some new open world events besides the Blood Harvest that are specifically taken over by these vampires. Most likely there's probably going to be some new open world events thrown into the mix as well. Then there's also going to be some new dungeons called Crypts, which you're also going to be introduced to while going through the storyline. I'm not exactly sure what these are going to be. They may be something similar to the cave type dungeons that we got with season 1. But then the developers also mentioned that as you go through the main storyline for season 2, it's going to end with a fight against Lord Zier, which is the big bad of season 2, and that the fight against him is going to take place in a new, very big dungeon. Now, what's interesting about this is that that's specifically how they mentioned it, that it was a very big dungeon. But when you go and look at some of the blog posts for some of the new content coming with season 2, specifically one of the new bosses is mentioned as being at the end of a mega dungeon, and Lord Zier is also being turned into an endgame boss after you defeat him in the storyline. So it's seeming like Lord Zier and this other new boss may be the bosses at the end of new mega dungeons, which they've never really described any other dungeons as mega dungeons. So I'm thinking of these maybe a little more towards capstone dungeons than our normal dungeons, maybe even bigger with more difficult bosses at the end. But that's pretty much all the new content and systems we're getting specifically with season 2. Now keep in mind, we're getting a ton of other quality of life changes, a ton of other additions with season 2. I would recommend checking out my last video because we're also getting 5 endgame bosses that completely overhaul how you're actually gonna play the endgame in Diablo 4 as a whole, that are also going to be added to the Eternal Realms. So that's just a big addition to the endgame of the entirety of Diablo 4, not counting any of this new season 2 content. So I think when looking at both the new power systems and the overall content added with season 2, I think it's all going to be a pretty big upgrade from season 1. But that's pretty much all I want to go over. So thanks for watching.